It all starts with one of those simple questions, right? You see an app with a rating that just seems a little too good. And what's wild is that when you start pulling on that one tiny thread, it turns out you unravel this massive hidden story about the biggest players in Silicon Valley.
So let's get right to it. Can a company like Google, I mean, they own the whole playground, right? Can they just waltz into their database and flip a one-star review to a five-star? Just like that?
Well, the answer is kind of complicated. It's one of those yes, but actually no situations. And honestly, it's in that but where things start to get really interesting.
Okay, so technically, yeah, of course they can. It's their database, their code. They hold all the keys to the kingdom. But in the real world, no way. It would be absolute corporate suicide. You've got regulators in the EU and the US just waiting to hand out billion-dollar fines for this stuff. Plus, you have all these data firms whose entire job is to watch for exactly this kind of thing. A crude, simple change like that, it would be spotted in a heartbeat. And that's when you have this light bulb moment. Why bother with some clumsy, illegal forgery when you can get the exact same result, totally legally? Think about it. You don't have to fake the numbers if you can just decide which votes count and which ones, well, simply disappear. A perfect example of this is review bombing. Remember during the pandemic when all those students flooded Google Classroom with one-star reviews? It was a huge wave of negative feedback. So, did Google just sit back and let its rating tank? Nope. They deleted millions of those reviews. Their justification? They called it an unrepresentative attack, not real feedback. See what they did there? They didn't fake the score. They just curated reality. But here's the thing. Just filtering out bad reviews, that's just scratching the surface. The real power, the deep-down influential stuff, it's not about technical tricks. It's about hacking our own psychology.
And this is really the core of how influence works today. Why would you go through the trouble of breaking the system's rules when you can just gently nudge the people in the system to do exactly what you want? It's so subtle, it's completely legal, and man, is it effective.
You can actually see how this whole game has evolved. Back in the day, companies would just straight up fake the numbers. Super risky, totally illegal. Then they got a bit smarter with astroturfing, paying for fake reviews. But even that became pretty easy to detect. So now we're at the new frontier, which is way more sophisticated. It's something called the empathy nudge. And honestly, it's pretty close to being the perfect crime.
So you're probably wondering, how does this actually work? Well, imagine this. A company sends out an internal email. Now, it's not going to say, hey, everyone, go give our new app 5 stars. No. It's much softer. It'll say something like, as part of our amazing collaborative culture, could you share your expert opinion on our new app? We want to improve. And remember, your colleagues worked so hard on this. So what happens? An engineer finds a real bug. But instead of writing, this is broken, 1 star, they think about their colleagues. So they write, awesome work, team. Just a little bit of latency on the login we could improve, 4 stars. You get thousands of these constructive 4-star reviews, and what do? They completely bury the genuine 1-star feedback from actual users.
But this brings up a huge question, right? Why? Why would a company full of some of the smartest people on the planet need to resort to these kinds of psychological games? Well, it turns out the answer isn't about the product. It's about a deeply broken, dysfunctional internal structure.
There's this amazing term for it, corporate feudalism, and it's the perfect description. I want you to imagine Google not as one big happy company, but as a map of competing medieval kingdoms. You've got the kingdom of Android over here, fighting the kingdom of Chrome over there. And they're all at war for the same limited resources, budget, the best engineers. It's a zero-sum game. For one kingdom to win, another has to lose. It is a constant internal war.
And the symptoms of this corporate disease, they're all over the place. Resources that are actually plentiful are made to feel scarce, so everyone fights over them. Information gets hoarded in silos. Nobody wants to take a risk, especially if it might accidentally help out another department. And what's the end result? You get this crippling bureaucratic paralysis, and ultimately, you just get stagnation.
Okay, so that's the problem. But what if you could just smash that whole system? What if you could flip the entire model completely on its head? We're not talking about a small tweak here. The solution is a radical, full-on revolution in how a giant company operates. So instead of these rigid, static budgets, just imagine a dynamic, fluid flow of talent. Picture an amazing engineer from the search team being able to spend, say, 3 weeks helping the Maps team solve a huge problem and getting a nice bonus for it. Suddenly, the main resource isn't money anymore. It's the collective brain power of 180,000 brilliant people, totally unlocked and free to flow to wherever it can do the most good.
And that is the fundamental shift. You're moving away from this world of artificial scarcity, where everyone's fighting tooth and nail over a tiny pie, to a world of abundance, where working together, collaborating, actually makes the pie bigger for everyone.
So why is this so incredibly urgent? Well, because while all these internal kingdoms are busy fighting their petty turf wars, the rest of the world outside is moving at lightning speed. The cost of sitting still and doing nothing isn't just stagnation anymore. It's literally extinction.
I mean, just look at the global race right now. Inside Google's feudal system, a brilliant new idea can take 6 months just to get through all the layers of bureaucratic approvals. Meanwhile, you've got these incredibly agile competitors, maybe in China or at a place like Elon Musk's XAI. They can go from a brand new idea to a full launch in 2 weeks. 2 weeks! They don't have silos, they have a single driving mission.
And this really gets to the heart of how Google misunderstands its own power. They are so terrified of being seen as some big evil empire that they end up acting timidly. But here's the twist. The real danger isn't that they're too powerful. The real danger is that they're too slow, too insufficient to solve the massive problems they are perfectly positioned to fix. And that failure to act creates a kind of chaos by omission.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? We spend all this time and energy looking for the next scrappy startup, the next big competitor that's going to take down a tech giant. But what if the real, mortal threat isn't coming from the outside at all? What if the greatest danger is actually the rot inside the castle walls? The corporate feudalism, the bureaucracy, and the crushing weight of a million brilliant ideas all just left to die quietly in a spreadsheet somewhere.